This week on Dig Me Out. With your hosts, Jason Zia and Tim Minichi.
Jay, we're back again with another episode thanks to our Dig Me Out Union on Patreon. You can help us make the next episode happen by joining us at dmounion.com or digmeoutunion.com. Speaking of that union, Jay, we have a guest.
Here we go.
Returning.
Who is it?
You might remember him from such albums as Wonderful Life by the Tories, Human Radio's self-titled, Caviar's self-titled, American Highway Flower by Dada, Eyewitness by Shades Apart, Death Ray's self-titled, and Wunderband's self-titled. That's 4 self-titled albums. Current record holder. Record holder. Also the record holder for most albums not on streaming.
That's my goal. That is the goal.
Welcome back to the show, Whitney Bueller. How are you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing great. Great.
I didn't even mention all the round tables.
Don't. I mean, you're just going to intimidate people if you tell them all the round
tables. I know.
Tables
It's 3, 6, 9, 12. This is episode 13. Lucky number 13.
Yeah, if it actually mattered at all. I mean, I wrote every song on every one of those albums. That's why I picked them.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, your last pick, Wunderband. Is it just Wonderband, or am I saying it correct?
Say Wonderband.
Okay, Wonderband.
I like
good with the language.
Wunderband.
I'm not going to try that.
Are there like umlauts or something? Why are you?
There is an umlaut over
There's an
the
umlaut.
U.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that one had like 3 listeners or something on Spotify. So that was.
And we doubled it.
Yes.
So I just want to say that the Dig Me Out ripple effect is in full gear. We make sure that your obscure records are heard by dozens, and we are happy to do that. So I sense a trend with your picks. There's a lot of stuff that might be called melodic, might be called power pop or power pop adjacent. So I know you went death metal with this one.
I did.
What did you pick for 2024? What's your album pick?
My pick is Baltimucho by Love Nut.
Baltimucho.
I think it's From the Land of Pleasant Living is like a subtitle for it or something like that. I can't read it on the background behind me.
From the Land of Pleasant Living, Baltimucho. Is that supposed to be a play on the word Baltimore?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. So how'd you discover this band?
There was that late 90s power pop craze, and it kind of dovetailed with all the Posies and all the other Tories and all that other power pop stuff I was listening to at the time. So it's just another band I found. I did not hear this one on the radio. Surprise, surprise. It was just a discovery. I think I used to talk to a guy named Bruce Burdine at Not Lame Recordings, and he kind of turned me onto it and stuff. So that was I used to do this silly little internet radio station I think I might have mentioned before, where I'd load up all these playlists and people would listen to it and stuff, and bands would send me CDs and press kits and stuff. It was fun for a few years, but
okay.
Not as high as you guys. Not as crazy. Yeah.
So
I got a lot of submissions.
Like the late 90s?
Yeah, late 90s, early aughts. Yeah, it was fun, but
you were flooded with a lot of stuff that's hard to find. I'm guessing because there was so much music being released then.
There was a good portion of it was not great, but whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, if you had a PO box,
I did.
Bands were going to send you stuff.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. And I shouldn't say not. Most of it was good. If I listened to it a few times, I started enjoying it. So yeah, that's basically how.
You did pick an obscure one here, even though they had some dalliances with the majors. The band does not have a huge internet presence. This album is not streaming. Thankfully, you provided us with some FLAC files.
Yes, I did.
Which I immediately turned into MP3s because I can't listen to FLAC.
Sorry.
What do you think? I'm running some sort of high-tech operation over here? I can play FLAC files? I don't even know how to do that.
All signs are you do. Look at that background you fixed up.
So, we mentioned this is a band from Baltimore. Jay, are you big with the Baltimore scene? Were you familiar with this band?
No, I wasn't.
Me neither.
Is the Baltimore scene different than the DC scene, or is it?
Based on my viewing of The Wire, yes. Okay. But that's all I have to go off of.
Okay.
Don't we have some kind of a city combo channel in the Discord for Washington and Baltimore and something?
Right.
So I think we just added that.
We have it's a DC Baltimore Richmond combo.
Oh, okay.
Which maybe, wonder if with this record, if Baltimore kind of has their own scene, or if it's really at that point, if you're that close to all those cities,
right,
you just kind of just play them all.
Like a Dallas Fort Worth situation.
Yeah.
They're not too far apart.
Yeah, I mean, DC is well known because of like Discord Records and the punks hardcore, that scene. But Baltimore is not quite as in my mind as well known. I would be hard pressed to name other bands from Baltimore. I know Cal Ripken is from Baltimore, but that's not from Baltimore.
Way to go.
He played there. So I didn't know of this band. I feel like I knew the name for some reason. Maybe the CD came into the radio station in the mid 90s. Like it sounds like a name of a band.
It does.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Yeah, I submitted this, I think, once just as one of the the runoffs that we have. I forget what you guys call them, but I submitted
tournaments of death.
It was duly trounced by everything else, but what else?
Got it. So I was able to dig up a little history. I'll give it to you here.
History of the band.
From Baltimore, as mentioned, they put out their first record on Merkin Records in 1995, and then got signed to Interscope, and it was re-released. And I guess they didn't really like the way that things were going with Interscope because they asked to be released from the contract when they were making their second record. Now, interestingly enough, Interscope hooked them up with Ed Stasium. So he is the guy who produced this record. Yeah. Jay, I know you're a fan based on his work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving what he did with The Replacements. So I was pretty excited when I started listening to this and saw he was the producer.
So
I know he produced Smithereens albums too.
Yep.
I don't know how many, but a few.
So Bastards of Melody was 95 and then again in 96. They record the next record. Interscope, I read an interview with the band, which was Andy Bopp on vocals and guitar, Dave Vestpoint on bass, and Joe Parsons, the drummer, and then lead vocalist or lead guitarist. I don't know who exactly the lead vocalist is here. It doesn't say in this article. Max Mueller is the other vocal guitarist. So it's a 4-piece. He said that they were at Interscope right when No Doubt and Bush exploded, and they saw the writing on the wall that like they're not going to care about us anymore. Like we might, like now that they have these huge bands, like we're not going to get any marketing, help or anything. So just let us go. So then they ended up leaving and they signed to Big Deal, which was a label in the 90s and 2000s in New York City. A bunch of Shonen Knife albums were released on that record or on that label, and also Enough's Enough. Multiple Enough's Enough albums were released on Big Deal Records. The album 1985 and the album after that, what was it called? Peach Fuzz. So there you go. label mates with Enough's Enough. Get Donnie V out there and do some touring.
The riches will soon be yours.
Yes. It kind of ends there. I don't have a lot of information. I know that like Andy Bopp has been in other bands, done other work. Not familiar with any of the names of those bands. Same thing with Max Mueller. I think they were together in a band called New Alliance, maybe after this, or maybe before. I don't know, but they were in another band together and they've done other stuff. So, but again, finding information about this band was pretty light. Did you get anything else in any searches, Whitney, or was that pretty much the same
I think
thing?
I sent you links to some of the things that you were talking about. I think I sent you some links in the emails. I remember hearing a few curious things like Andy Bopp was kind of worshipped once when they got signed by Interscope, so there was a lot of hangers on in wherever, Baltimore or whatever. A lot of college radio heat for that first album. I mean, it's relative love, and I don't know how much of a following they had with the first record, but yeah, I think Max, is it Mueller? Is that his name?
Yeah.
I can't remember. I know he sings on Essex Hair, which is one of the like 10th or 11th song on the record. Because
Okay.
I kind of would like to hear more from him vocally, lead vocals. But most of that's Andy Bopp. Andy Bopp's kind of in power pop circles. He's done some stuff where he's kind of a jangle. He's kind of got some jangle pop stuff that he's pretty famous for. He's put out a lot of stuff recently that I really, really like. Not the last album because he kind of went a folk rock direction, which is weird, but he's really put out a lot of material in the last 4 or 5 years, which I've liked because he's kind of a guitar. Strangely, in power pop circles, he's kind of a guitar hero, I guess, a little bit. But
interesting.
Yeah, that's about all the extra stuff I have on them.
The first record made its number 25 on CMJ's most requested list, but apparently it didn't sell well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was part of the reason why maybe Interscope wasn't as excited about them as, say, Gwen Stefani and No Doubt. That might have been.
I think they also said, one of the band members said, I think it was Max Mueller, basically said, yeah, we're kind of a hard sell with the type of music we play for the things that were getting played on the radio back then. So maybe it was a thing where Interscope was just signing like anybody and hoping someone, caught on or something.
Sure, you're looking for a single to pop up and catch on, and maybe a video or something like that. Absolutely. We'll share the poll results of our Worthy Album Better EP Decent Single poll from Patreon at the end of the show, but we did get some comments. Ian, I love that Ian chimes in even when he can't listen to he said, it's not on Apple Music, so I'm unable to justify my continuing trend of decent single. I didn't vote. I am looking forward to the episode. So there you go.
Awesome. I appreciate his dedication.
Yes.
Absolutely. I don't know if he wants to hear the music or like see me or something, maybe. I don't know.
You voted Worthy Album.
Well, I had to, right?
Of course, right. Richard Waterman said, interesting album for 1998. Not sure how this would have ever had a chance of success at that time. As Whit said, shades of Cheap Trick and other power pop rock bands. I heard some Doughboys, Velvet Crush, Sloan, Red Cross. There's also some left field weirdness to be found. I really like Love Found You, Stolen Picture, and some other more up-tempo tracks. I think this band is better when they play hard and fast. I wonder if anyone else will think the opening line of Man or Machine sounds like Bon Jovi. Just think Shot Through the Heart. Better EP, but like 6 songs are really good in my opinion. There you go. That's Richard's take.
That matters to me, by the way, what Rich says. It's huge.
Matters to all of us. He is a sage and wise man.
He very, very much so.
Let's get into talking about this record. Jay, tell me one thing you liked about Baltimucho by Love Nut.
It's a band that you can tell, I mean, pretty obviously in the power pop genre too, that they're using the Beatles as a core of what they're doing. And I mean that by like the harmony choices, the way that they're using many voices to create these huge hooks. the melodies, and a lot of, there's moments here on chord changes where you're just like, oh man, that's such a Beatles chord change. Some of the vocal delivery as well. So that's kind of the root of the band. I think what's really interesting though, which isn't that uncommon, right? I think what is interesting though is then they fuse that with a bunch of different styles to kind of create their own thing. So you hear a song like Love Found You, which to me has like a 70s glam rock vibe to it. It almost sounds like The Wonders meets Kiss. It's got a little bit of like a sugary like 60s rock pop thing going on, and then it has a chorus where you're like, oh damn, that's the chorus Paul Stanley wish he could write. So that's one example. Then you kind of move into Ever-Changing World, which has a little of the 70s glam thing going on, but it also mixes in some like 60s sounds and some maybe even psych sounds. Baltimucho and Essex Hair have this punk element. They sound like just, Green Day or the Wild Hearts. It's pretty edgy, fairly aggressive. Again, super melodic, but definitely a different tone than the other songs I mentioned. Man or Machine gets a little proggy and weird in a Queen kind of way. There's even some guitar lines in there that are like these guitar harmonies and stuff that very Brian May-esque. So I love that they're covering all that ground, and it doesn't feel like they're genre hopping. Like to get to those comparisons, I really had to like focus and, break it down. If you just experience those songs, as a normal listener would, there's things about it that feel familiar, but it's not like hitting you over the head with like, okay, now we're going to do a Queen song. It's not like that. So I think they're making it their own. Overall tone wise too, there's a diversity there. They're kind of exploring the spectrum in terms of using that Beatles influence and going as far as they can with it. So there's like I mentioned, some edgy hard rock stuff. There's also like a handful of these, like, I don't know how else to describe them, but like kind of these sweeping anthemic ballad tempo songs, but they're not really ballads. They're very melodic. They've got some energy to them. At times it gets into a space almost like Crowded House or a little like Weezer. So there's a handful of songs that are in that space too. One of the things I think that really caught my ear and that helps all of this come together and be, so unique is I think the guitar playing. So I'll just point out the song Baltimucho. When you get to that chorus, that song kind of hits you right away, right? It's pretty high energy. Again, it has that a little bit of a Green Day feel to it. But the chorus has this guitar line in it. And this is, pretty much the first song on the record. There's a little intro piece, and when they get to that little guitar line, it clues you in of like, oh, this band's about some, there's going to be more here at play than what I'm hearing on this song. Like I'm getting the hooks, I'm getting the energy, but like there's just a guitar run in that chorus. You're like, okay, that guitar player knows how to play. And like that choice was like pretty sophisticated. A lot of bands wouldn't have done that or wouldn't been able to do that. And I think it's just a little example of like that happens throughout the record, but it also kind of clues you in of like their skill um, and sort of competence in songwriting. So that's some of the stuff that I liked. There's quite a bit of variety under the hood if you look for it, but it doesn't like hit you over the head with, so much, um, you know, so many left turns that you get confused on what the band's about. I think it's diverse, but also very cohesive. What worked for you, Tim?
I am glad you mentioned 70s glam because I was trying to pinpoint. There's a specific guitar sound to this record. It has almost a direct feel on some of it because it's so buzzy, and you know what I'm talking about? Like
it's dry.
It's very dry.
Yeah.
And I kept hearing Fox on the Run. In part, it reminded me of like I bet this band could have done a killer hyped up version of that song.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. Good song.
Yeah. And I feel like this is almost like a 90s version of Sweet in a lot of ways. They're just like these big anthemic power pop songs, but there's, like you mentioned, there's a little bit more going on under the hood where they could have just played a chord. The guitar player is doing really cool little runs. There's really interesting leads. All the things that you would expect from a band in the power pop genre. There's hand claps, there's big chorus parts with lots of dynamics, like you mentioned in Love Found You. I mean, that's just a killer song, and it happens throughout the record. Yes, there are tinges of the typical touchstones like the Beatles and that kind of stuff, but it feels a little bit more. I mean, it definitely feels like 90s power pop to me when I'm listening to it. There are songs that I was like, "Ooh, this would have been on a mixtape with the Posies." Like, this wasn't far off from this. Or you mentioned about some of the stuff that gets more ballady, like "Foolish Game" is another one. Which is not the. There's another "Foolish Game" out there that I'm thinking of. That's it's not that song, but it still has like. You mentioned them being ballads, but not really ballads. It still has like an oomph to it. Like, it doesn't completely turn into a schlocky kind of, My Heart Will Go On or something like that. It actually has like a little bit of kick in the pants that makes it better than just a regular ballad. And If You Go Away is another one that I liked as far as the slower. It's like a perfect spot to cool it down. Like you start out, you just get buzzed in the face by Baltimucho and Bob Pine. And then Love Found You and Stolen Picture, I really like the piano part that's in that as well. Then you get to cool it down a little bit for If You Go Away and Catch Your Breath. It's a nice sequencing there. And also mention the fact that these are a lot of quick songs. I mean, Bob Pine is 1:16. I think that most of these songs are under 3:30, and some of them are in the under. There's a couple that are under 2 minutes.
Yeah,
that Essex Hair and Bob Pine are both under 2 minutes. I mean, this band has a sweet spot. They know how to get to about 3:20, 3:10, and get out, and it's a nice sweet spot. But I just the sound of this record, again, thanks to Mr. Ed, it just sounds good. The guitars are just ripping on this record, and I really like that. So that's what worked for me. Whitney, you brought this record to us. What works for you?
Yeah, you guys are so good at picking stuff apart like that. You're hitting almost everything I've got notes for, but yeah, so this is probably the most power poppy thing I've picked in 7 years or whatever. And I was kind of hesitant to do that because I was thinking, I kind of want to go a Helmet Betty direction or Trompe Le Monde, something Pixies. But I just kind of want to get this stuff out there. The stuff nobody hears is more fun to me than the stuff that's just really popular. Not as obscure as Wonder Band or maybe the artist known as Tim Minneci. Yeah, there's lots of energy. Record sounds big, and by big I mean like huge.
Yeah.
All the stuff about the buzzy guitars is right on. I think the lyrics are a little generic, but they aren't going to date like, mentions of like what are the Fountains of Wayne, Korn or Puff Daddy or whatever. We're not going to have to deal with that dated lyrics. If you go away, that's like the Flame Part 2. I mean, it could be a Cheap Trick song. Man or Machine's weird. It's got a really great sounding and kind of grand sounding bridge. It's probably the most unique sounding song on the record, the most different sounding. Somebody mentioned it was kind of almost prog-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I like Misfortune. They dropped some nice harmonies in on this song. The album doesn't have a ton of like really killer harmonies. They have good ones, but not a lot of layered harmonies and stuff. I don't know. It seems like just a couple vocals making a harmony. Everything is going your way is like a Rick Nielsen type of thing. It sounds like there's some Roger Joseph Manning sounding Jellyfish keyboards in there that I can pick apart.
Everything is going your way, so don't think about the pain and the heartache. Everything is going your way. For you now I know it's time that you stayed away. I never wanted your false intentions. Is there any way for my prevention? I never hold you down. You couldn't understand. Guess it's over and somewhere's another man. Now, anywhere you go, I love you. Everything is going your way.
I got like a lot of 60s vibe, or I get a lot of 60s vibe off stuff like Misfortune. There's another one on there that really Casualty also has a really classic 60s pop sound, but it's got a lot of really loud guitars and some really smack drums. Yeah, I just enjoy it. I was a little bit concerned of becoming a little repetitious with my picks, but they're entertaining records. They're just things that just people like if they hear them usually. So I wanted to kind of highlight this one as what I thought was another really solid power pop 90s thing that flew under the radar of grunge and everything else. So
I think Tim, you mentioned the even when they slow down, they still have like there's some energy there, there's some edge. It doesn't get like, I don't know, listless or boring. I also want to point out a song like Misfortune, which is up tempo, it's got a good riff, but that's also, if you listen to that song, especially the chorus, like other bands could have taken a very similar approach to the drums and rhythm of that song, but there's a subtlety to the way it's played where it goes from being like something that could be very kind of plodding and almost dull, and it just like has enough feel to it in the way that they kind of get on the backbeat that it just has a much better energy to it. Like it keeps propelling the song and not getting into this kind of like plotty generic power poppy feel. Like it still has an energy to it. It's just little clever things like that where you see the skill come across and like it can elevate some material that I think in other hands could very easily become not that amazing. So I think there's some performance stuff here that's really important too. A lot, obviously with bands that are trying to write pop and, in a power pop sort of space, songwriting is so important. And the harmonies kind of are another big part of that. But I think there's a high level of skill here from every player that's captured on the record.
Mm-hmm.
I would say If You Go Away is that way. It starts out and after all that energy that comes from like Baltimucho and Bob Pine and then Love Found You and Stolen Picture or whatever, here comes this If You Go Away, and it's this ballad, which is not my favorite song on the record. But what it does have in it, it's got like a bridge that carries the song, just elevates the song, and it what could become plotting actually becomes kind of a highlight of the record. It's just it's neat how they can there's a lot of flourishes here that I pick up on still when I listen to this, which is quite often actually.
I'm glad you mentioned the it's the bridge section in Man and Machine, right? That gave me a Jellyfish vibe. Like I could hear the influence of that, which then takes me back to like Cheap Trick. Like Cheap Trick would do, and it's a lot of it is chord choices and voicings where you're not just playing basic E minor, G, major, that kind of stuff, but you're coming up with some really like interesting fifths and sevenths and those kinds of things that you don't normally hear in rock music. I mean, and the fact that they're using it in just the bridge of a 3-minute song is pretty interesting. That's not a choice that a lot of bands would make. I think you mentioned Casualty, Jay. That was the one that had the Posies vibe to me. He has I think because he's singing, there must be some minor chords in that song because I feel like it's not as bright vocally as some of the other songs. And the Posies, although they're power pop and they're very poppy, there's some dark sounding music on, especially Frosting on the Beater, which is sort of the touchstone for when I'm talking about the Posies. Because I'm going to be quite frank, I don't know that I've listened to like Amazing Disgrace and what's the one before
Dear 23.
Dear 23, but that's beyond that. I haven't listened to a lot of the Posies albums.
Me neither. Those are the three.
Yeah, I guess I've got the major ones.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about that outro song for a minute though?
Yeah,
Crop Duster.
I got a few notes.
That's wild. Like I was not expecting a 10-minute long I guess it's a song, and then they do just basically a freak out jam, and then they go into another song which apes some of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and then go back into the guitar freak out jam to end it. That's an interesting choice. Only in the 90s could you pull something like that off. So good on them for doing it, because that's actually one of the more unique things I've seen or heard, where they actually go back to the song as opposed to just going to like a completely different song and leaving it.
I didn't realize until I was kind of listening to it more, going to talk about it with you guys. I didn't realize that it kind of led back to where the noise that ended the first 4 minutes, you had your 30 seconds of silence. Then it turned into this like Cobain like pop thing that I don't know. That's what it reminded me of. It was kind of had a Nirvana vibe to it.
Felt like something in the way.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then it finished up with these noisy guitars and a sitar, and it was like, this is like Beatles. And I hate to use Beatles, Big Star, and Badfinger when I talk about power pop, because Beatles are not, they're just a thing. And I don't really think I like just straight up like purist power pop. I like noise, which is probably why I'm liking things like Shiner and Helmet. I'm always talking about those things, yet I never bring them in as albums. But I mean, I don't like just real straightforward pop and jangle stuff. It's just boring to me. So an album like this, where they do that kind of thing like they do with Crop Duster, which I was concerned about because it's a 10-minute song and it put it up over like 50 minutes. I thought, oh no, it's too long of a record for Tim and Jay. But well,
we'll get into that.
It's really unique. Okay, all right. All right, I said my piece about that song.
You said your piece.
Everything is gone, and she can't
Jay, is there anything that doesn't work for you on this record?
Well, I definitely like when they're a little noisier, a little edgier. They take, some unexpected turns, a little louder. When they get, I think on the quiet side, it's all very good. It just becomes vanilla and a little bit more forgettable. So I think that's my only criticism. And it's not even whole songs. It's like sections of songs. It would be like maybe the chorus and Falling Down is a little bland, or Foolish Game. I like the verse, but I don't love the chorus. Like it's really good. It's just not as distinct. There's moments of this record you could flip on, just randomly like pick a variety of moments, and some of them you'll put on and be like, wow, this is like really interesting, and not like, this is its own sound. And there's other parts you could flip to and be like, this could be anybody. So that's my only criticism, is that, it's a tough spot for any band trying to do what this band is trying to do. It's like this is the trap, is like, you want to be, really hooky, sort of live in that space that all the bands that we've all talked about, and I'm sure that they lived in, but you also want to do your own thing. And I think, 90% of the time on this record, they're doing their own thing. It's just, there's a 10% where it just feels a little vanilla. How about you, Tim? Anything not work?
100% agree with you. Up until, so like the first 8 tracks, I'm on board. Up to Foolish Game, which is a nice ballad. But then everything after that, except for Essex Hair, is basically mid-tempo or slow. Casualty is mid-tempo, Misfortune is mid-tempo, Everything Is Going Your Way is slow, Falling Down is mid-tempo, Message is mid-tempo. Crop Duster is its own thing with that crazy long outro reprise. So it's not that, like you said, it's not that the songs are bad. It's just a lot of the same in a row. I can take a lot of up-tempo guitar noise in a row, but I definitely felt like the drag in the back half, where it's just like, I needed one more up-tempo song, like at between 10 and 11, right? Like 10.5. That's where it needed to be. And I think it would have helped break stuff up. Yes, it's a 50-minute album, but the last track is 10 minutes. So it's really if you cut that out, it's a 40-minute record of 14 songs. That's pretty good. Like, I don't really have a complaint about anything in terms of length, but it fits on a vinyl slab really nicely, with 7 songs per side. When you throw in that last 10 minutes, then it kind of like becomes too much, like, because there's a whole nother song in there too. So it's really 16 songs. That was a little bit like a little too indulgent, but I liked it. So I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm just saying maybe some of the mid-tempo songs needed to get chopped in order to move up Crop Duster, which, by the way, that's about a plain crop duster, not walking around the room while you're firing, right?
I hope so.
God, I hope so.
Just thought that would be awkward. Is there anything that doesn't work for you on the album, Whitney?
Yeah, I think, like I said before, the lyrics are a little generic. Not a lyrics guy again, so it doesn't really matter that much to me, but I can see where that might get some people, wow, I wish this was
didn't bother
more
me
interesting lyrically. Yeah,
Did it bother you, Jay?
No.
I mean,
Okay,
I
good.
just want for the band,
There's
like,
a little,
scratch
like,
it.
I want a great
there's a little
chorus.
predictability in terms of there's some moments where you're like, oh, I know where this line is going next.
Mm-hmm.
Either word wise or just vowel wise, but there was no lyrics that really popped to me like, oh boy, that's bad.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, as long as the melody is as catchy as they are, and the hooks are this good, I kind of don't care what the lyrics are, unless they're offensive. Like, if this was offensive, then it would be a problem.
Yeah.
But there's nothing
It was
offensive.
like 80s rock or 80s metal or something, right?
Right. If this was,
I'm joking. I
That's
made
our
a
other
comment that
podcast.
how are we
man.
going to sidestep that on that podcast? How are we going to
We will
sidestep
be
that?
taking that head on.
we're
in the other
not going to
podcast.
sidestep that.
Okay, good. God, that's
but if they had thrown in a
refreshing
USSR reference, I would have been all for it.
I will say another thing. I think Andy Bob's vocals are a little thin. I mean, there's times he kind of channels. I can't believe I'm going to say this. He kind of channels Robin Zander a little bit, but he doesn't have the pipes to do it.
Yeah.
Like, but he gets close sometimes. But his vocals are a little thin, and I would like to hear the other vocalists sing a little more like on Essex Hair. But Tim, I can see your point about Foolish Game being like where it starts to slow down quite a bit, or after that. But man, Casualty and Misfortune are such good songs. I just can't. And Essex Hair is another good one. I like Crop Duster. I think I could dump Message, and Everything Is Going Your Way is all right. Falling Down is kind of it. I don't know. It's kind of weak.
Yep.
But yeah, other than that, there's just a few songs I could jettison, but all in all, that's it. I do think I was really concerned about making this pick because I thought, geez, I have kind of a power pop rep. This is as power poppy as I've been with my picks. So
you're our guy. You're our
Yeah.
dealer. Our power pop
I'm a dealer. I don't know, like Phil and those guys, they kind of know it pretty well too. But yeah, I keep bringing this stuff forward, don't I?
I don't mind. I mean,
Okay.
when we get to find good stuff,
But
then
dig me out. It's kind of like it's supposed to be like grunge and stuff. I mean, so
no, not at all.
As long as we would generally consider it rock and it came out in the 90s, it's fair game.
I will bet you a large sum of money, but not over $10, that if you were to go through each year and me talking what the favorite albums were each year, and probably J too, almost none of them at the end of the year ended up being grunge records. Like the first year, I said my favorite song of the year was Crucifunkin by and I got feedback about that. Like, how, what?
Feedback. You got some notes?
I got Neil Schmidt was the one who was like, you picked Crucifunkin as your favorite song of the year of 51 albums that you've reviewed, and that was your favorite song of the whole year. And looking back, we did Failure and Super Drag and
well, I think we were doing stuff we had never heard before that we thought was kind of fun. But yes,
Right.
I get the point.
I mean, I like Grunt Rock, but that's probably the only year where a grunge-esque record made it into like our.
Yeah.
It always tends to be stuff that's not grunge, and which, to be fair, really the most of the decade wasn't grunge.
Yeah.
There might have been some grunge offshoots and some grunge, second generation, third generation bands, but so I feel like in a lot of ways, bands like Radiohead were almost as big or bigger than like, look at how many bands that Radiohead spawned off of that sound like Radiohead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have Coldplay, which dominated a lot of the 2000s, which with their Radiohead sound. I don't think anybody's. I mean, you had your Creeds and your Nickelbacks and that kind of stuff, but that's all kind of gone. So, what I'm saying is, you're in good company.
Yeah, me and my inferiority complex on the DMO podcast.
Not at all. Now, I do think that Richard bringing up that this was basically DOA in 1998 is accurate. Like,
very much so.
I don't
Although
hear
a band like Marvelous 3 comes along with like Hey Album and gets a few hits and stuff like that, so it wasn't entirely dead.
But not quite as. This is. There's a different vibe to this than Marvelous 3, right, Jay? Like,
I mean, I think there were a lot of bands. I mean, this is the classic power pop story, right? There's a lot of bands doing it throughout, let's just say, the 90s, but none of them are successful. The Grays, great example. Like, this is in the ballpark of that, slightly different flavor, but that band wasn't successful, but people love it. I think when you get into like, okay, what power pop bands are successful, you really start to like stretch what the genre means. You start to get into like arguments that Weezer's power pop, but for the most part, it's like a genre destined to not be popular and to only ever have cult success. So in that way, it kind of makes sense. Could this band tweak some things here and there and like did more like a Green Day or more like a Foo Fighters or more like something that was, commercially, I don't want to say viable, but just like easier to package and understand? Probably. But, I think they're doing what they did. Now, I also say like, if you're really familiar with like the Posies and some of the bands we've talked about, I think this sounds, to your point, Tim, like the 90s. But if you're not familiar with those bands, I think this sounds like pretty timeless. Like there's something about the production where you're like, oh shit, that's 1998. This could have come out this year, and I would have been like, cool new band. I wouldn't have questioned the production or the sound or anything about it, right? So
yeah, not the production. It sounds great.
Yeah, it is a great sounding record.
I think if they had maybe kept up with the whole Bastards of Melody, their first record, kept up with that whole vibe, they probably could have got a little more Green Day, Blink kind of, because they were pretty noisy on that first album. But you could hear power pop leanings on that first record a lot too. The more I listen to it, it's just not as blatantly influenced by it as this is. And when I say blatantly, I mean that as a compliment. I mean, I like that this is influenced by the good stuff that happened in the past. And that's the problem that power pop groups also, the burden they bear is that they are always labeled as derivative no matter what they do, right? Because there's so much of it, like you said, in the past, and stuff like the Who and Elvis Costello and all those guys, whatever. I'm just throwing two out. It's kind of just rock music, and for some reason Townsend called it power pop, and that it's stuck, but it's really just melodic rock music. So it's tough to really distance yourself. They don't have a lot of weirdness, like whatever that song that Tim said was his favorite. What was that song called, Tim? You just mentioned that you were saying we were laughing at that you picked for your favorite song of a certain year.
Crucifunkin.
Yeah, there's no real crucifunkin on this record or anything like that. That is maybe a little bit of a novelty. So
no.
One thing I'm thinking about based on what we're talking about too, that maybe is typical of the genre and typical of this band, is like the vocal is very much about delivering the song and harmony. And it's not like a powerhouse or just super distinct or isolated or any of the things you typically hear in pop, like true radio pop hits tend to have a lead vocal it stands out for good or bad, right? This band, that's not how these songs work. I think you even pointed that out, Whitney. It's just like the vocal is there to deliver the melody. And then they use some harmonies to make it richer and sweeter, but it's not about the lead vocal. I think that holds back the genre in general from probably really truly breaking through the radio.
Exactly, Jay. I have a note right here. It says Andy Bop's vocals are a little nasally and occasionally thin, which is certainly not uncommon in the genre. So it is what it is. Yeah, I mean it's a good record. I mean, I don't know. I looked real hard on Pitchfork to see if I could see if they trashed it. They didn't. They didn't even have a review on it. Surprise. So
no,
I'm making a reference to you guys barking about Pitchfork. I don't remember. Was it the Utopia Parkway record?
Oh yeah,
where they get like a 3 or something like that.
It was, yeah.
And then said everybody that lives in the suburbs doesn't know anything about music, basically. So
essentially, yes.
I thought that was funny. And I also have the Godsmack record, but I don't think I've listened to it more than once.
And what's funny is it's like those are the people who pour over, sitting in their bedroom, pour over record after record, listening to everything from, the aforementioned Beatles, but like Todd Rundgren and the Raspberries and all these like bands and go, I think we can do that, but it's hard. I mean, it's not easy to write a catchy hook. Not anybody can do it. You have to like listen to a lot of music and really understand arrangement. Like these songs don't sound complicated, but there's a lot of stuff. Like Jay mentioned, the guitar lines are not straightforward and simple. There are little riffs happening all over the place. There are interesting chord choices that are happening that are not standard chord choices for your average pop song, where they're just using the 1-4-5 and that kind of stuff. This is a lot more complex, even though it's pop.
Yeah,
that's the tricky part. But it's not like power pop doesn't have its moment. I mean, we talk about Fountains of Wayne. Fountains of Wayne had a huge single like that is still in the pop culture ether.
But to Whitney's point, I think you were talking about, to me, that's a novelty song.
It is.
Right. So I think that the rules here we're starting to write. It seems to be, if you're a power pop band that wants to break through, you need to write a novelty song.
Yeah. I love the hell out of that song, but yeah, it's a novelty song.
Is Girlfriend by Matthew Sweet a novelty song?
No.
Or was that just at the right time because it was
at the right
grunge?
time? It was perfect. I think it was perfect. It was perfect timing. Probably wasn't meant to be perfectly timed, but it just turned out that way. That's my opinion anyway.
Before we leave the what doesn't work, I do need to point out a couple of things that are not about the music.
Okay.
The band name is really bad. Not helping.
It's not a great name, yeah.
The album cover is really bad. Not helping. Like,
it doesn't give you any idea what this band is.
Right. And the ideas it's giving me is not what this band sounds like. Even the album title with the upside down exclamation point.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like little things like that. You're like, what am I even looking at? Is this a word? Is this like?
Yeah. Seems like a theme with me. I got the umlauts in that one, and now the upside down.
Yeah, man, you're using some weird.
Can I tell you anything to be not as pop or as mainstream as everyone else? I guess
I can't remember what an exclamation point is called. What's the punctuation? Weird punctuation
mark. Or a bang, I think we call it, don't we, in the computer biz? Do we still call exclamation points bangs? I don't know. Maybe we never did.
I don't know.
These are all things that, had the label been paying attention to them, like as they should be, or putting people around them that really like believed in the band, probably would have found a way to help them overcome. Like, hey guys, who do we were talking about? Was it Tesla we were talking about, Tim? With that episode that like they were gonna go with City Kid as the name, and somebody came in and it's like, hey, you probably should change that band name.
Yeah, it was either Tom Zuzat or however you say his name, or it was the Ronnie Montrose, because they had some nice backers.
Yeah,
one of those guys was like, "This is a terrible name.
Successful
this says
bands
nothing about you."
Have some people around them who are pretty smart when it comes to packaging and like know the right way and the right time to sort of help some bands out make the right decisions. And those are just three that, as I'm looking at how this band is packaged, we're not going to help them in any way reach an audience that they need to reach.
Right. Because like if you look at some of the other albums that you've suggested, like for example, the Caviar record, that has a very specific look to the cover. It's got that specific font. It's got
even the name conveys like some idea of like what the band's about.
Right.
It's a little indulgent, over the top, like
glammy.
Yeah.
Kind of fancy.
So I just noticed that the last two records before this, the Wonder Band and Death Ray, both were white covers, but then they superimposed a picture uh, on top of that, you didn't go with that trend. You didn't find another white
No,
cover.
no, I don't. You're right. The love nut, I don't know what it means. I'm nutty about love, or I don't know. It could be something else we're talking about. Uh, and the background, the album, even though it looks nice behind Tim and I, it's not very descriptive of anything.
No, it doesn't tell you. I mean, it could be a hip hop album. It could,
Yeah.
this is from a neighborhood in
Mm.
Baltimore, or an electronica album. Like, it says nothing about what the band is. Now, if you like have a guitar somewhere in there, like
Yeah,
getting tossed out the window or something, or there's all
exactly.
their gear is like sitting on the street in front of that. Like, give me some idea of what we're getting into here, as opposed to this stock photo. Apparently, I don't even know if it's stock photo, but it could be, of this neighborhood. I'm guessing that's
Yeah, those are
Baltimore.
great points. Maybe some miscalculations there for sure.
Well, in addition to offering retroactive producer advice, Jay and I also retroactive album cover and band name
Very
advice.
Very creative, guys.
We can fix it in post. All right. Let's get to our overall ratings on this record. We'll share the poll results in just a moment. But Jay, where do you land? Worthy album, better EP, or decent single?
I'm gonna wear the album. I did not axe many from my notes here. Really, there's maybe 3 songs that I think are average. I don't even know that I'd skip them. I just think they're not as strong as the others. I enjoyed this quite a bit. I'm really was really taken to with just the overall production of it. Again, looking at the album cover when I first, dropped in my Apple Music and I saw the album cover, I was like, uh-oh. Like, just from a standpoint of like, oh, the recording of this is not going to be good. And it's fantastic. It sounds amazing. So it's very listenable. Where'd you land, Tim?
I'm also to where the album. I would move some. Like, I think "Love Found You" should open the record. I think that drum part is a perfect opener to like set the mood. And not that I don't like Bob Pine, I theme from Baltimucho. I mean, take it or leave it or whatever. But I think that would be a great opener. And then there are a couple of the mid-tempo songs like "Message" and "Everything Is Going Your Way." I would probably axe those, but that's about it. There's nothing bad. Let's put it that way. There's not a bad song here. There's just a couple that make it drag on a little bit on the back half, and I wish it was maybe 12 instead of 15 or 16, really. But it's a great sounding record. I really love the guitar tone on this album. I would love to know what they did to get it, because it's so dry and sounds like a buzzsaw at times. It's just such a cool tone. It doesn't sound like typically when I think of guitar tones for power pop records, I think of them as have a little more sheen on them, I guess. And this has a little bit more edge that I was expecting. So that really helped put it over the top for me. So we're the album as well. Whitney?
Already said it was a worthy album.
Okay, you're done.
But no, I said, well, before I said it was on Patreon, so I let the cat out of the bag there, or whatever the expression is. I could probably do without Falling Down or Message. I was going to say I could do without Everything Is Going Your Way, but it sounds like it could have been a track on Heaven Tonight. So I was like, nah, I can't chop that one. That's a cheap trick for all the young people here.
Cheap Trick were a band, or are a band, from the 1970s to the current day.
1970s and 80s, and they sucked in the whatever. We won't go into the history. Yeah, but that's about it. I really like the record. I'm glad it was one of about 10 I was considering. It's like, okay, this is the one I'll go with this time, and hopefully they'll forgive me the kind of the 60s and 70s stuff we spoke of earlier that you mentioned. It's a little bit it's very influenced, but like you said, all those tricks and skills that the band has really put over the top.
The only time it was like blatant was when he actually borrowed the melody from "While My Guitar Gently Weeps." Like then I was like, wait a minute, I know what this is.
He sampled it. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I'm curious, like, I know you can be sued for like Led Zeppelin was sued by Spirit for that chord progression thing, although they lost. But like, can you sue for a melody lift? Like, I don't know. I guess if it's short enough, it doesn't matter.
I mean, we don't. Do we have the song credits? They could have given them credit.
I don't have it in front of me. I think yeah, I don't.
They're not in the ID3 tag, so I can't say. That's possible. I mean, if they credit them, then they cut them in on whatever 3 cents they made.
Yeah, no kidding.
I don't know because it says performed by Love Nut. Again, terrible name. But
I mean,
you can.
Well, is Death Ray a good name, Tim?
I do like Death Ray. Yeah,
that's a great name.
And Caviar you said was a good name. Wonder Band or whatever is definitely not a good.
That's not good. Death Ray is like, it could be a little aggressive. It's also a little retro. It's kind of fun.
We're going through my picks. How about Human Radio? Is that a good one? You guys are the creatives here for naming bands.
That's okay.
It's all right.
It's better than Love Nut, but it's no Death Ray.
Okay.
Look, we have standards that we must
adhere to.
Yes. But this one is the trifecta of not a good album cover, not a good album title, and not a good band name.
The music.
But the music is
just
great.
They should just change the name of it. Like, just take the album as it is, repackage it, give it a new name, and just release it now. And don't even like acknowledge that it was released in 1998.
Just send it out like it's a brand new record.
Right? Like, it's not available anywhere. Nobody will know.
True.
Yeah. It's on YouTube. That's the only place. Did you put it up on YouTube, Whitney?
No, I didn't. I flacked you guys. That's as much as I got. That's as duplicate. That's all the duplication I can live with without getting a guilty conscience.
Got it.
Because they might be able to sell this record, like Jay said, repackage it and just sell it and make tons of money off it.
By the way, I posted in our Patreon a picture of the Japanese version of the record.
Mm-hmm.
That actually has an extra song on it called "I Don't Know."
I did not know.
You did not know
that was a thing. No.
Yeah. So, it is never been sold on Discogs. Nobody's ever bought or sold the Japanese version. Just
what the hell is wrong with me? Everything I pick, nobody wants to hear or buy or stream. I'm going to.
Oh, I'm sorry. That was the promo version of the Japanese album. The actual album has been, track 15. I don't know, is Diano. It's Diont, like Dion.
I'm getting how to pronounce that. I'm going to pick that up somehow just for that one song.
Get it. It's available for like $5. Let me see here. But you got to get it from Japan. So good luck on the shipping. Now there's an $8 one in the US. Yeah, you can grab it. Dub Store USA has it. They're out of
the
Wilmington.
Japanese version of it.
They have the Japanese version. It's what they say. They say they have the Japanese version.
I might have to go about getting that. I might have to pick that up.
You might want to message them first, just to make sure. Just be like, "Are you guys pulling my leg? You really got the Japanese version because I need that song. I need that extra track."
Oh, not that much of a fanboy.
Hey, I used to import UK singles, multiples of the same song because they would do different B-sides on the different singles.
Wow.
For their chart position over there. So
nice.
Yeah, I understand about fanboying over foreign editions. Now at Patreon, the vote was split 50-50 between Worthy Album and Better EP. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably.
I'm sure thousands voted for that, but
was not thousands. You might have to knock off a couple zeros.
Okay.
Based on knowing our listenership and who's our patrons, that does not surprise me. Although Ian didn't vote. He said he didn't vote because he couldn't listen to the record. So
It's an honest person. He didn't vote. He wasn't informed.
right. That's honorable.
Very.
Whitney, thank you for bringing this record to us. I know you had trepidation about repeating your, style.
I do. I don't want to be a one-trick pony or whatever. I just
gotta lean into it.
How are you feeling now?
Feeling good. I was not sure what you guys would really think of this because I think it is pretty blatantly power pop. It's just well recorded and louder than most. But you went for it, so that's cool. I've only had one record now. I'm gonna brag again that you guys both haven't said we're the album on out of 7, and that was the Human Radio one because Jay gave it a better EP. I think he needs to re-listen to it. No, I'm kidding. But otherwise, I'm on a streak. I'm still rolling.
Hey,
don't bring
you're
us
on a roll. You don't change.
Poorly recorded, quiet power pop.
No, I won't.
Only bring us loud,
well recorded
pop.
Let me take a note here. Get on the keyboard and take that down.
Yeah. Guitars, and more well recorded guitars. That's the key here. Well,
yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for making it so easy to talk about the record because you guys pretty much nailed it.
Awesome. Well, we enjoy having you. We enjoy talking with you over at the Discord and shooting the proverbial poop.
There's a lot of poop there, that's for sure.
There's a whole hootie and discussion today.
Oh, I didn't see that today.
There was that. They were talking. There was a whole discussion of U2 and the Verve, which I did not understand. Comparing U2 and the Verve, that seemed like two different worlds there. But
got me.
Hey, I just let people do their thing, and I just harassed Jay in the UFO section.
When I saw
the UFO stuff super interesting. I just wish I could believe. I wish it was Fox Mulder. I wish I could believe, but
it's not about belief.
You're like me. You're a Dana Scully.
That's true. It's not a religion.
It's not a religion.
And now Jay's gonna
Science is just about a level of confidence. It's not a belief.
I did not want to make Jay mad. I take back all my UAP stuff.
Yeah, when I saw the conversation on YouTube, I felt like that Homer Simpson meme where I'm just like, I have nothing to say.
Yes,
I'm going to disappear into the shrubs.
Just disappear.
I have nothing to contribute to this conversation. I'm going to go invisible.
That's the best thing to do a lot of the time.
Yeah, I've never been passionate about U2, so I don't care.
Right. Don't have hot take to share.
As long as they're not putting stuff on my phone without me knowing.
That was a miscalculation, definitely.
Yeah. I would love for there to be a scene when that happens whenever they eventually make their movie about U2, like the Ray and Walk the Line. They'll do a U2 movie, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, where they show them like planning to do it, and then the reaction of people being pissed off, and then Bono being like sitting in an office, be like, that might not have been a good idea.
With his sunglasses on, so you can't really see it. Yeah.
That might have been a bad choice.
I think it was, but
that's all right. I heard they redeemed themselves at the Sphere in Las Vegas, put on a great show. So I'd actually check them out there. I don't think I'd go to see U2 at a regular stadium, but at the Sphere where I can
look pretty cool.
Look at
that's where the Love Nut reunion show is going to be. I think at the Sphere.
Is it going to be there? That's awesome.
So. I read something about that. I forgot to mention it earlier.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. They'll slot them in between the Grateful Dead and Fish because those are apparently the bands that are going to play there.
Okay, great.
Well, I won't be going to the Sphere anytime soon.
Imagine if Tool played the Sphere and had control over all of the like visuals. That would be terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Just the video for Sober up on a massive screen in front of you. It's scary.
People talk about that. That could go viral.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I need to remind folks that you can be like Whitney and suggest an album by joining us at dmounion.com or digmeoutunion.com. You can vote in the polls for albums. You can vote in our monthly tournaments where 18 albums enter and 1 album leaves based on suggestions made by anyone over at digmeoutpodcast.com. Also at Patreon, you can read the box newsletter. It's a weekly roundup of new releases for 80s, 90s, and aughts relevant music, books, movies, TV shows, etc. With history of the bands, also based on what's in our polls and our new episodes, all via our newsletter. And we have kicked off Dig Me Out 80s Metal with new episodes every other week, along with our friend Chip Midnight, diving into the metal of our youth that Jay and Chip enjoyed and I completely missed out on, except for Def Leppard and Bon Jovi and the obvious radio songs. So if you'd like to hear 2 very knowledgeable people and 1 fish out of water.
But hear Tim hear this music for the first time.
Yes.
This is the podcast you want.
The song is called
That's a good vibe to have, though. That's a good
Smooth Up in You. Okay.
That's a good that's nice though to have that. Maybe someone who isn't as familiar with it. It's a nice dynamic.
It worked out. So
nice
Chip
dynamic.
and I are
like
gonna get all sentimental and have all the nostalgia going, and Tim's gonna be like, I don't know what any of this is.
Tim's gonna be the voice of truth in that thing.
Right.
They keep talking about the USSR. What is that?
Hey, the Tesla one was really good, so I enjoyed that. So thanks for doing it.
Awesome.
Thank you. And that will be dropping, if not already, it will be dropping soon. We don't have as strict a schedule like we do with this podcast where it's every Tuesday for 14 years. That one will be a little bit
Chip has held the schedule probably. Huh?
What?
I said Chip has probably held the schedule. He's got all those interviews.
He's
going
busy.
on.
He's doing all sorts of interviews, and he's got a Pac-Man machine to play. I mean, he's got stuff going on.
I think
you guys all are. I mean, Tim's a artist. He's making music, and Jay's publishing books now and everything else. I don't know. Well,
we got stuff. Jay's using a machine to draw, like some sort of futuristic robot.
That was pretty crazy. That was pretty amazing.
That's my favorite thing to do, is make machines do work while I just watch them and laugh.
Skills.
That's right, Roomba. You're gonna clean this floor. Be my bitch.
Pretty much gotten to that point.
Okay. Whitney, thank you once again. It's been great hanging out with you.
Thanks.
For Jay, I'm Tim. We're out. We'll be back next week with another episode of Dig Me Out.